Moving on, in today's hyper-connected world where consumers are bombarded with messages from countless brands, how can we ensure that our audience is targeted across various channels? Coming to the stage to discuss our next panel discussion entitled Creating a Unified Brand Voice, Consistency in Communication Across Channels. Our moderator today is Julie Porter. She's Chief Rocker and Front Porch Marketing. Joining her today is Marcy Price Bellitz, Director of Oil Marketing. And is Yesenia Reynoso in the house? Yesenia? Where's Yesenia? She walked behind me. You're so short, I couldn't find you. Big round of applause for our new panel. Good things come in small packages.
We're all bright stars. Does this work?
Go ahead and introduce yourself, and
Can you hear me?
the floor is yours. Yes, I can hear
Okay,
you.
great. Well, I just wanted to say I was really inspired by that last panel and that the whole chaos thing and, living, and I'm trying not to let chaos have a seat at my table. And this morning, my son did a great job of just coming right in with the chaos as I'm trying to be present here with all of you and
They always time that perfectly,
so,
right?
amazing. He's like, I have to declare my concentration for my MBA right now before noon, Florida time. And I'm like, and it's 9:15 our time. And I'm so anyway, and he's like, it was marketing versus international business. So I thought, this world all kinds of comes together with the chaos and we're at a marketing conference and he's asking, should marketing be concentrated? I just thought that was very ironic. But anyway, so very good panel. So we're going to talk about creating a unified brand voice. But we should do introductions first. So Macy, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Is my mic on?
It is.
Okay,
I can hear you.
cool. So I am Macy. If you need to remember me, you're going to hear my accent. I am from the South, an hour outside of Atlanta. I have lived all over you guys, and my accent is going to follow me for the rest of my life. So if you need to remember me, I'm from the South. I'm Macy, and I am here representing RUVNA. We're an ed tech platform helping K through 12 schools with crisis communication.
Oh, wow.
But when I actually achieved or got this award and was asked to be here, and I was running a marketing consultancy helping private equity companies differentiate themselves from their competitors online. I'm also the co-founder of Specially Gifted Foundation. We're a nonprofit organization serving families who have children with disabilities by providing a special gift or opportunity and beneficial resources. So that's a little bit about me.
Fabulous.
All right, happy Wednesday, everybody. I hope you can hear me. Like Macy, I do have a strong accent. I'm actually from New York City, though I live in Fort Lee, New Jersey, so I'm a hybrid NYC NJ girl. That's how I consider myself. But either way, again, hello. I am the founder and principal owner of Why Communicate, and we assist individuals and organizations in establishing and maximizing their brand presence through in-house corporate communications. So consider us as your in-house department. And so we have the heartbeat of an in-house department. We have a mindset of an in-house department. We are an in-house communications
I love
department.
that.
It is, I can't even tell you just how I whipped up that magic. But either way, other than that, I do bring almost 15 years of corporate communications experience working in both the for-profit and nonprofit sectors. And coming from the media capital of the world, New York City, it comes to no surprise that storytelling came right along with me. So pleasure to be speaking with all of you this afternoon.
Wonderful. I'm honored to be with both of you today.
Same.
Yes.
So our first question is, what is brand voice?
Interesting. I could kick it off if that's okay with you.
Please do.
Yes. Well, in communications terms, I see brand voice as the unique personality and the consistent expression of a brand. And so what do I mean by that? It pretty much encompasses your style, your tone, your motto, your logo, and every other design component. But there's much more to that. Brand voice, if you look at it from a larger perspective, it composes what I like to call a brand heart. And so your heart is the identity of who you want to represent. And your brand heart composes of your brand voice, your mission, your values, your purpose, your brand credo, your promise, etc. And once you put all of those components together, it transforms into your brand heart, the heartbeat of your identity. And it's because of that foundation, it sets up the why, which is the center focal point of your story, and as well as the how, which is the second most important.
I mean, she nailed that. What else is to add there? But I would like to give 2 examples, because sometimes you can hear the description of something, but hearing it used just makes it stick with you and really solidifies what that meaning actually is. So, for example, we've all heard of Apple, right? Okay. Apple's voice is making you think bigger. You want to align with Apple, and it's inspirational. Let's think about Nike. We've all heard about Nike, and their big slogan is "Just do it." They're going to, in their ads and social media, from their website, it's all about motivational and empowerment. So those are 2 very different brands. And also, if anyone in here, have you heard of HubSpot? Raise your hand.
Yep.
All right, dude. So if you guys haven't followed them already on LinkedIn, they are killing it with their brand voice on LinkedIn. Yep. It's tailored towards marketers.
Very much.
And
Yes.
even making jokes about how marketing can be overwhelming or a lot some days. So they're also another brand to follow that has a unique brand voice and makes them stand out.
And I want to add to that, because ultimately what's really important when it comes to solidifying your brand voice is being different from the market. It's about differentiation. It's about standing out and making yourself known. What makes you unique? What is exactly does the audience want to obtain, whether it's a service or product, or in the nonprofit world, a program? And so through that differentiation and standing out, you pretty much have we'll talk about this a little bit more in depth, your unique selling proposition, or also known as USP for short. And in addition, you also get the emotional connection. In corporate communications, one of the big things we talk about is connecting to audiences. And so if you have a message that resonates to whether it's one-on-one or to the mass public, you want to be able to have a message that is quotable, shareable, likable, and actionable, because ultimately you want to deliver a call to action that's going to pull them in, and they automatically become your brand ambassadors.
Beautiful.
Very well said. And I think that plays really nicely into our next question, which is, why does the brand voice matter? And, other than differentiation, emotional connection, what other things? Why is it important to have your brand voice defined?
Really, you want to make sure your brand voice is defined so that you can actually connect with who you're here to serve. Because at the end of the day, whatever your business is here so that it can serve a customer or a consumer. And again, I'm going to give an example of this. So the private equity company that I was working with and helping last year, they said, we're drowning in the noise. There's so many business people out here trying to raise capital to get these multi-million-dollar properties. And I took a look. They had this beautiful brand guide that was done professionally. The designer has worked with Reese Witherspoon and Hello Sunshine Productions, and it was perfect. It had the visuals, it had the tagline, it had the messaging. But when I went to their website, when I went to their social media platforms and their ads, I didn't see any of that. I saw a man in a business suit not talking in his voice, not connecting with his audience, and their audience was with healthcare professionals. And that was their differentiator, because he was a CEO, but he was also an orthopedic surgeon. So I said, okay, instead of us doing our ads and our brand shoots in business suits like everyone else is in private equity, right. I said, why are you not wearing your white coat? You're a doctor, and you're trying to serve other doctors and teach them how to use real estate to get passive income.
So smart.
So that's an example of how your brand voice can be so powerful in connecting with who you're here to serve.
And Macy, to follow up, because I think that is a perfect example to one of the pointers that I also want to discuss, which is trust and transparency. In corporate communications, it doesn't matter what industry sector you work in. I always try to drill into whether it's with stakeholders, shareholders, board of directors, senior executives, and even your own employees, the importance of establishing trust and transparency in the market that you're working. Reason being is because in an age where many people are looking for authenticity and genuine messaging, it is of the utmost importance as brands to understand how the market works, who exactly is your target audience, how you're going to connect with them through genuine, real messaging, and then solidify trust. Because once you establish yourself as a true, credible source, people are going to come to you. And in addition to that, we're also living in a society that we're becoming more multilingual and multicultural. And so throughout my past experience working, especially in corporate, I've had the opportunity to work with teams on developing different types of multilingual content. I'm also bilingual, by the way. Y está muy bueno de hablar en español también. But the reason why is because you, it's true. But it's because you want to be able to talk to audiences in their native language and tone. Once you solidify exactly what they're looking for and you cement that credibility, they're going to come to you. And it is a way for you to establish yourself as a real credible source in your local community, in the market that you're working for, and then you also have individuals who can spread the word. It's about brand loyalty and equity at the end of the day.
Awesome. Very well said. So let's talk about, since the brand voice drives really any written word or creative, and we're sitting either, in a corporation that hasn't done their, looked at their brand in 20 years, or you're at an agency pitching a new client to define their brand because they've, been in business for a while, but they have no brand architecture. How do you go about defining a brand voice?
Well, I think I'll start it off since I made the one of the earlier points about unique selling proposition. I think it's really understand you have to do a clear audit as to who you are as a brand. What kind of materials do you want to incorporate? How do you want people to remember you, your voice, your tone, identifying your personality, the kinds of adjectives that you want to align yourself with. All of those key components you have to put together and be able to ultimately create your brand identity or your brand heart and then execute it out into the masses. Obviously, you have to have a clear understanding of your audience, so being able to analyze that, the kinds of channels that they consume, and then also take an audit as to your communications channels. It could very well be that you may have digital platforms such as social media, your website, you do email marketing, and you can also look at other communications means such as external communications. Perhaps maybe you want to go and do some earned media, for instance, try to get reporters to talk about your specific service or brand. And so that is another avenue that you want to do. And then ultimately, training, especially for internal communications purposes. You want to have your employees or your team or even your freelancers or partners that you work with feel inspired in how you present your brand forward, and then be able to train them consistently and effectively what you want your brand to ultimately be and how it needs to be shown out to everybody and how you need to talk about it as well.
And just to add to that is I'm going to suggest you start with your mission, because in your mission, you're going to go back to why you created your business or your agency and who you're here to serve. So after your mission, I'm going to also ask you to create your buyer personas. And I'm not just talking about their demographics. And you also mentioned like where they hang out is so important as well. But I want you to ask yourself 3 parts about your buyer persona. What's their external, internal, and philosophical needs? An external need could be, I need software for X, Y, and Z. But internal and philosophical is where you go on a deeper level of why your customer or consumer is buying. So I would say to start with your brand voice, and you're really starting out, is to nail down your mission and then know who you're serving.
That's wonderful. That's great. And I think for us, from an agency standpoint, when we look at personality in addition to the things that you both suggested, and we collaboratively at the table with our clients through the brand architecture process that involves a lot of what we've talked about, we sit and say, okay, let's pick 5 personality words that's going to drive our tone of communication or our voice. So that, and they're like, 5, just 5, and then sometimes that's a 6-week exercise just to agree with leadership on the table.
Of course, especially if there's multiple founders.
Exactly.
And every brand is different. And I always want to emphasize the importance of uniqueness. Everybody likes to stand out. Everybody wants to be different. And so when you choose your adjectives, you want to go with ones that forever symbolize who you are as a brand, how you want people to remember you as. When they look and see your brand, what is the first word that's going to come up in their head when they associate you with your brand? And so picking out those kinds of personable adjectives that aligns with what you want to represent is one of the many ways you can make your brand highly memorable. It's basically a strategic communications exercise.
If I could, before we move on to the next question, hearing all of us, if you are looking for your next book, which you should be, I would highly suggest building a story brand by Donald Miller. I read his book a couple years ago, but then I also got to hear him speak at Tony Robbins' Business Mastery at the beginning of last year. And I think this is a great place for you to start if you're really looking at your brand and how to portray your story to reach your clients. So I just wanted to give that book recommendation because we're ultimately all saying what's in there, and it's a really good place to start.
And I just want to also add that as well. I also happen to have the opportunity to develop my own guide that talks about the basics of storytelling. It's called The 5 W's and the 1 H, which talks about the core ingredients in developing your story. And so I'm happy to tell you more about it. And if you want to access it, feel free to come see me. But it's pretty much your roadmap to formulating your story, because as we all know, each and every one have a unique story that needs to be told, how it needs to be told, and most importantly, why it needs to be told. And so the who, what, when, where, and why are your key ingredients to answering everything that you want to say story-wise, and then the how is the explanation. The why is the reason, the how is the explanation.
Awesome. So we have brand voice defined through whichever process we go through. How do we keep it consistent across all communication channels?
That's a really interesting one. During my time, both in the entrepreneurial and in the corporate circles, I have seen a lot of organizations do brand style guidebooks. It could be a formulation as well as what Macy has mentioned. It could be a combination of either PDFs or PowerPoint presentations, easily accessible through Microsoft Office 365 or Canva. You can easily customize it to your organization's liking, and then you could be very specific with it, pretty much listing every single thing that we discussed in your brand heart or in your chart. And then also you could list your colors, your fonts, or the typography, and then as well the guidelines. I want to emphasize this. It's really important as organizations to fill out your brand guidelines and tell individuals as to how you want to proceed moving forward when it comes to presenting your brand, whether it's in materials, internal, external materials, or in appearances such as this, media interviews, etc. And if brand style guides don't work, and if you want something that's much shorter, then you could go with those brand one sheets. Again, very accessible and easily developed through Canva. And another note I want to add as well is media newsrooms. I think we can all agree in the corporate communication sphere, it is so important for organizations to have a very strong media presence. And so when journalists and even stakeholders, corporate partners or sponsors are looking for access to obtain your information, the media newsroom is pretty much going to be your one-stop location where you're going to have everything of high-level information listed on that website. It could be press releases, press kits, your brand materials, your logos, your bios, your headshots, high-res photography, and any other relevant materials that is going to be much easy for reporters and as well as prominent individuals to access. And it also puts you a leg up in the field. It also makes your brand much more cohesive.
That was spot on for externally. So I will offer a different perspective for internally. I always like to, when I come in, to make sure that the brand voice and messaging is going to stay cohesive across not only external platforms, but internally. We want that customer or client from the time they have the first introduction to the brand or the company with the salesperson to next client success. And then throughout the entire journey, they should be hearing the same message and the same problem and solution that we are here to solve. So not only thinking about your website, social media, and all the external ways that we can keep that brand cohesive, we also need to think about our internal teams and make sure that we're on the same page. especially when a lot of agencies or just marketing in general, we're working with a lot of different contractors. So we need to make sure from the beginning when they're onboarded into the team, they're on the same page and they're equipped to talk to our clients the way that we would want to talk to them.
That's great. So, and I think from, the brand style guide, when we work with smaller companies, they've created a logo, they've created all of these things, but there's no guide. So everybody's using a different font on their email, and the color they might be using on their PowerPoint's a different color.
It's being cringe.
I know,
We're allowed to
right?
say cringe.
You
cringe.
can say cringe.
Yeah.
As far as I know, today on the 20th of March, right?
I've
Okay.
seen my fair share of speaking with brand style guides, and it's like, maybe I recommend you to do this instead of.
And it being
that.
at corporate, and they take you through
Right.
like all of that, and this is what you
Yeah.
have to do, and this is your PowerPoint template, and I'm like, okay, I get it. But then when you're on your own and you have no tools, or you're a 50-person company,
Yeah.
and nobody does that, that can really break down the consistency of your brand.
Yeah.
So that is so good.
Yeah,
Just-
and I'm sorry if I cut you off, Julie. Coming from my experience, again, working in corporate, I have worked in departments where I've been a one-woman show, where I had to literally oversee everything across the corporate communications spectrum, and it's all about multi-versatility, wearing multiple hats. But I've also worked in teams as well, where everyone within the specific team is assigned a specific criteria or area within corporate communications that needs to be taken care of. And I've also been through an experience during my corporate era where I've worked at a cinema advertising company, which was a lot of fun, by the way, when they went through their entire brand overhaul process. And everything that we are conversing up to this point, they actually did. And to be a part of that experience is also something that I think is highly effective when you're trying to talk to individuals about branding and corporate comms.
And Macy, can we go back real quick? Because we were talking about the brand style guide. Did you reference a message map or messaging at all?
Yes,
So-
story brand.
Can you tell us a little bit about, like, if we were to do, not if you didn't have an agency or if you didn't have an in-house person, how would you go about creating your key messages or your message map within your company? We didn't really talk about this before, but I think it's relevant to what we're just talking about.
Yeah, of course. So I would first say you want to start from the beginning, and I want to lay this out there that we naturally, as business owners and companies, we talk about ourselves, and we talk about our features of our product, and the whole story brand, if we're going to use that framework, there's tons of frameworks out there, but I will reference the story brand framework, is about putting your customer as the hero. It's not about you and the benefits of your company or your product. It's about what they need and going back to understanding on a deeper level of what they need, not just from external, but also internal and philosophical. And when you start there and you position your client as the hero, your messaging will be way clearer and really touch to the point of what they're looking for and how you can come in and solve that. You are the guide. They are the hero, and you are the guide helping them along their path reach success. So if a client is coming, I'll go back to private equity, and their problem is that they're not reaching their target audience, which is, in this case, healthcare professionals who are making anywhere from $250,000 plus, so orthopedic surgeons. And they're like, I'm not reaching them, and I'm going, okay, who are they? And we put a name down, we do demographics, but also what are they struggling with? They're struggling with it. They're spending 7 days a week in the hospital, and they're making damn good money, but they have no time with their family. They can't take a vacation because they're on call. So they have a deeper level of, they don't really need more income. They need freedom. And what does that freedom mean to them? It means they could take a vacation or they can go to their son's birthday party. So whatever your client is, I would really say start with understanding who they are, what problems you are solving for them, and remember, they're the hero. You're just the guide to help them reach success.
That's awesome. Do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think Macy just had her own mic drop moment, so
Let's just have a moment of silence, please, for Macy. Okay, thank you. We're going to start again. So we've talked about AI over the last 3 days and how it's impacted marketing. So how do we preserve a brand's voice when AI is assisting in content production?
So good. Such a good question because, oh my gosh, if I get on LinkedIn one more time and see all the ChatGPT captions, I'm going to lose it. I think I love AI, by the way. Like, I think it's such a tool. And yeah, there's a few scary parts to it. I'm not going to lie. I think we can all agree with that. But AI, as a marketer, it is your friend, okay? So don't be afraid of it. ChatGPT, I'll give two references. ChatGPT, you can actually feed ChatGPT your brand guide or your client's brand identity and their problem, their customer. Feed ChatGPT all that information and then prompt it to what you need, and it will get a little bit better in giving you that outputs in the actual brand tone. Another on this AI, I want to also I'm giving books, and I guess that's just what I'm doing today is giving little tokens for you to go away with. I love as a marketer, and this platform was actually out before OpenAI. It's called Jasper, and Jasper was developed for marketers. So you don't have to worry about knowing your prompts and really feeding ChatGPT to get what you want. Jasper's already programmed to do that, from blog posts to press releases. And there's a section in Jasper where you can go ahead and set up all of your brand guidelines, from your tone to your customer to your problems you're solving. So I've given a book today, and now I'm going to give you a platform if you want to go check it out. I think Jasper's great. I really should have come up here with some affiliate codes, but
Exactly.
I didn't have this planned. It's just coming out.
Next time.
Well, I think Macy pretty much hit all of the marks that I wanted to say regarding AI, and I think it's quite an interesting time in the communications industry because we're still trying to get a feel as to what artificial intelligence is going to be about, what it's ultimately going to become. There's definitely still some hesitation, especially among us communicators, whether you work in-house or agency, as to how to best implement AI. But I also think this is a prime opportunity for us to be able to embrace artificial intelligence and then be able to set the standard for how we're going to be rolling out artificial intelligence communications in the future. I had last year I was part of the Public Affairs and Government Summit, which is part of the Public Relations Society of America, and I had a very good friend of mine who gave a fantastic presentation about AI from a government standpoint. But most of the things that he conversed about is about the implementations of procedures and protocols, whether it's from your organization, whether in the form as to how you want to utilize AI when you're doing your branding and your messaging, and to ensure that all the models that you're going to implement, as Macy has mentioned, they are interwoven with your own brand protocols and guidelines. In many other ways as well, there's going to be a lot of monitoring, a lot of analytics when you look into AI. But there's also a chance for everyone to amplify that effectiveness and as well as scalability when you try to utilize your brand and AI combined together.
I know you asked for specifically branding, and that's kind of what we're up here talking about. But I'd also like to say you can use AI to really just speed up your market research. Like, holy cow.
Yeah.
It is such a tool in the market research, and which helps you with your brand, right? You need to understand your consumer on a deeper level. And for me, just now, a month into this new role at an ed tech company, this is my first time being in the education sector, and we're coming up on our sales cycle, and I have a short window of I need to understand my client and what their pain points are, and using ChatGPT to say, hey, this is who I am, this is who I'm trying to reach, where are they hanging out, what are their problems as chief technology officer of a private school, and how can I best communicate my software as their solution. So on the note of AI, I just want to say it's not only about using it for your branding and messaging, it's also about using it to help speed up your everyday processes as a marketer, like market research.
Good point. Absolutely. So are there any last tips or tricks that you want to share about keeping consistency with your brand voice across all communication channels?
I would like to say to audit frequently. There should never be a time, and I know this happens a lot, especially in corporate, that it's been 10 years since you've gone back to the drawing board and looked at your tagline or colors or messaging. Don't ever let that happen, especially as a solopreneur or small business owner. It is something that you should be doing on an annual basis, because think about even yourself as a consumer. The way that I like to consume information and ultimately make a sale has changed dramatically in the past year, just from all the different advancements with technology. So I would just like to leave. I've already given a book recommendation and a platform recommendation, but I'd also like to just say to remember that branding is never finished.
Right.
And although you can love your work, make sure that you're staying open-minded and always wanting to revisit that.
Well, and I think the audit is a really good thing to talk about a little bit further, because it's critical to what you're doing. So I mean, whether you're auditing to go into the process to either define or redefine your brand voice, or it's the ongoing thing, like you said, to do annually. Let's talk a little bit deeper about what is that, because a lot of people don't understand, like they understand tax audit, right? But they don't understand brand audit.
I don't know if I actually
I know.
do. My
Like,
accountant just asked me for stuff.
It's like it crosses my fingers and my legs. But what are the steps or the process to go about a brand or communications audit?
All right, so I'll take it off. In my world, is communications audit, and I do this all the time in both arenas. And so what I like to do is that I typically would like to take an audit and as well as analyze what exactly are the key point immediate areas of need for improvement. That is number one. When you look at a website or social media channel or any internal or external medium, you want to identify which areas are in need of an improvement. You want to be able to identify areas that is how are you going to be able to spruce up your content. It could be content ideas. It could be the amount of times that you post on a particular platform. You could also look into the functionality. Are people accessing the website or any platform with ease? And if so, how often are they looking at the pages? Because that matters. It's all about generating web traffic, and you're trying to bring them in if you are looking at it from a digital communication standpoint. If you're looking at it from an external communication standpoint, then obviously it's really important to do a lot of press coverage tracking, which is a lot of databases. So if you have not heard of them, Cision, Maltwater, Muckrack, those are some of the platforms that you can utilize. There's also Prowly, and of course PR Karma, which is a much more cost-effective option that you can utilize to analyze and audit all of your mediums. And then once you do that, then you'll be able to sit down with your supervisor or your teams, and then you'll be able to give a comprehensive analysis in terms of all the key data, the areas that work that can maintain, the areas that need to improve, and then ultimately you come up with a plan. Sometimes it's you offering recommendations, or it could be also listening to the individuals in the room involved and figuring out what exactly it is that they're ultimately looking for, and as well as doing focus groups and surveys that also can be involved in your audit. And then when you put it all together, then you can come up with a comprehensive communications plan that touches every single asset of your mediums and everything that connects within the corporate communications umbrella.
I'll do a specific perspective on brand audits, and it was around lead generating. Specifically lead generators. And I was working with this client, and I went to their website, and their main lead generator was to sign up for our newsletter. Who the hell needs another newsletter in their inbox? Like, seriously, I have so many newsletters. And unless you're, I'm sorry, Jenna Kutcher, who's killing it with her newsletters that are weekly, your customer does not want your newsletter, okay? You've got to go back to what do they need from you. Educators, they need to understand, say for software, they need to understand how your software is going to solve their problem of keeping their kids and their students safe. How could we do that? We could do that in a PDF. I don't know if we need another PDF. We could do it in a short ebook. We could even provide, I know everybody's making courses now, but have you thought about doing a free course? I think Alex Hormozy just rocked the world when he came out with his recent course and book that he just gave away for free. So I would say on lead generation, make sure please take off sign up for your newsletter unless you are also saying you are going to get X, Y, and Z value when you sign up for this monthly or weekly newsletter. So that's a specific brand audit that I just did for lead generation.
Awesome. I just have to go because I am known for like bunny trails and all those things because what you said, I worked at a building products company in the corporate communications, or not corporate communications, sorry, in the corporate office. But I started in the field, very much like we could do kind of whatever we wanted, within brand guidelines. And then went to corporate and was vice president of marketing and sustainability. And they'd never been in the digital space because this is like, whatever, 16 plus years ago. And it was building products, which is like pipes, right? Concrete pipes in the ground. And so they were looking for an initiative as far as lead generation of courses. And we did this really inexpensive online course that was called Know Your Pipe. Fantastic. And so it was just like,
pipe.
is HDPE stronger than concrete? And then it was like 6 or 7 words. But anyway, from a lead generation standpoint, I just had to throw that out there because that was like,
No, that's great.
before its time. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, know your pipe. That's hysterical.
And
Anyway.
see how you connected with your audience by using a word that they were looking for. So pipe's your key word, but you made it funny and relatable. So they're like, know your pipe. Like, okay, that's a little out there. Exactly.
Okay, so anything else? How are we doing on time so we can not talk about pipes? 10 minutes. Okay. Do we want it? 12 minutes.
Do we have any specific questions? Maybe that could lead where we go.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we've left uncovered that we should dive deeper into? This takes
We have a
right-
question over here.
Okay.
Yes.
I can't see it.
That's hard.
The relation of brand, marketing, and sales. Have you ever had I guess it's a two-part question. Is one, getting a new or young company to focus less on sales because that's like today, whereas marketing and branding is sort of longer term, but you have to pause and do that because I had a client like this who, when I gave him the 5 personality traits, he said, "Oh, that all 5 perfectly describe us." And then I had to politely explain that no, you have to pick one. And he could not do it. And it was really, how do you explain because it's so, it's not very specific. What is a brand, right? So how do you go about articulating that to say an engineer or something like that or a finance guy who just thinks it's all malarkey and snake oil?
So I'm happy to talk about that because the building product space is heavy in engineers, which was very good training for me as a business owner. And a lot of our clients, we work with the CEO and the C-suite. They have no marketing people. And we talk to them about the foundation. And we use the analogy of the house. Like if you don't have your foundation, then you can't build the house. So we do vision, which is, you could do vision or mission. And then we do personality. And then we do, we do our process. And then, but it takes a while to educate them on that because they don't get that part. They just want to see the results, and they want to, and if they have their big idea or the, shiny object that they want to happen. So you just have to sit down and say, wait, whoa, like slow your roll. This is what we need to do. And you just have to be direct and you have to go at them, I think, a couple of times before you finally get their attention. Yes, I have. And it's really hard, particularly, so our business is 13 years old. It's easier for me today to do that, and I did it more last year than I ever have. It's hard to do, but I can promise you that you will benefit twofold from it, and because you're going to be as good as your work, right, and as good as your clients. And if that client isn't good enough to see how important that is, that's not going to be a good reflection on your work. So walk away and find the person who gets it.
I think it's almost like you nailed that. We should never have to sell ourselves as a marketer. We just shouldn't. If someone's coming to us and they need brand help, we're the experts. Just like I would not go to my orthopedic surgeon and be like, "Look, do you know what you're doing down there with my knee? Like, do you know? Because I don't know if you know." And it's interesting, but in the marketing sector, we get that all the time.
Absolutely.
Why do I need this? Well, I don't know. And it's like, you trusted me, and I've just stopped. Like, I'm not going to sell myself after you've already chosen to work with me, right? I'm not saying you don't have to pitch your services. Yes, you have to pitch your services. But once they've decided to work with you, if you are still questioning me, then we're just not a good fit to work together.
F word off. Sorry, I didn't.
And I think our number one word as marketers should be get really comfortable with saying no.
Yeah.
When you're working with someone, especially engineers and finance, their gift is to be very particular.
Very.
And that can get in their way when they're doing branding. And just the other day, we were working on a one-liner, and he's an engineer, and he kept wanting the first sentence. Oh my gosh! I was like, it's great, it's solid, but the first sentence, every single word, he was going back to, and I get it. It's their business.
Totally.
But you have to be, as the marketer, be okay with saying, no, this is good, we need to stop. This is it. This is solid, and give them that reassurance as well of,
Well, and I think you can do it in a respectful manner.
Yes,
right? As long as you're
1000%.
respectful and you
they've
understand.
come to you, they're entrusting you.
Right. And engineers, like, that's what I wanted to be. Like, I can't even believe that's what I started out as. But I mean, and they're brilliant, and they have these great things, and they're doing all these wonderful things, but they have they're wired differently. And I think as long as you can show the respect of, I'm not out there engineering a freaking road. Like, I'm doing marketing for that tollway. But, if you can just be respectful and try to give that analogy, it makes it a little easier. But it's a thing, and it happens too frequently. No. So it's part of our brand development process, our brand architecture process. It's adjectives around a brand.
Does that answer your question?
I think somebody's giving them side conversation. Adjectives that describe your brand. So the 4 or 5 adjectives, and it has to be adjectives. It can't be nouns. So, because that sets the tone of all of your written or your creative graphic communication. So all the things that you look at, that you put out, whether it's a PDF or a social media post, or it's a 5-line email that you're sending out, it should all pass that personality test, which are those 4 or 5 personality words, or those 4 or 5 adjectives that you defined that is your brand.
Yeah, and I think it's an example could be is that your friend, if you have a best friend and you have, what are the first 4 words when you talk about her? Pop up in your head, 4 adjectives about your best friend. What you can think about. The way that those 4 adjectives that you talk about your best friend are exactly in reference to your brand. That is how you wanna align with that.
And I think it's important, and even if you are like a solopreneur or whatever, you need to think about it like, or you're just starting up your own agency.
Yep.
Yes, part of your personality is that, but I don't know, I can't remember who was saying when they were developing, like I started my business whenever I had a group of people who knew me from all different facets of life, helped me take me through the branding process, because I want to be larger than me. I want Front Porch Marketing to live beyond Julie Porter. So this is not about me. So that's important to it is about the brand. It's not about the person. It's not about the CEO. It's not about whoever thinks they're in charge. The brand needs to live on besides a person.
You're giving your company a personality. Like in 2 sentences, how someone would say thank you. My husband would just say thank you. I would say, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Do you see the difference there? That's
Exactly.
the same for companies.
Yeah.
My nonprofit, we're serving families, so we're a little bit more relaxed. All of our colors are primary. We're going to use a lot of different emojis. Private equity, we're going to be very precise in our conversation and professional, because that's who we're tailoring our messaging to, and that's who we're wanting to target.
That's what your
Yeah.
audience expects.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and that's what they expect. Exactly.
Yeah, and I think for my company, Why Communicate, when I did like the brand identity process, one of the things, in addition to adjectives and as well as everything else that I described in the brand heart, I also look at color as well. Color also gives another area of your personality. When I chose my colors, one of the first things that popped up in my head as a communications pro is trust. And when I looked at trust, which color aligns with trust? Blue. And so surrounding with that is how I started to develop my brand personality and my brand heart. Now, I want to do a quick a quick little interactive exercise. When you think, obviously I'm from New York City, media capital of the world. When I talk about New York City, what is the first thing that pops into your head when you think about New York City?
Fashion.
Building, yes. Who else? Come on, don't be shy. Come on. Times Square. Here you go. What was that? I'm sorry? Big Apple. There you go. You start seeing everything that aligns about New York City: the fashion, Times Square, the buildings, and everything else in between. That creates the personality of New York City, because we all know how iconic it is. I'll give you another example that symbolizes New York. The New York Yankees. Look at their iconic brand logo, the interlocking NY. It is global. It is you absolutely see it everywhere. And when people look at that, they automatically assume it not only associates with New York, but it also associates with the sports team, which is the New York Yankees, and it associates winning. And it's also my beloved team, by the way.
And we could talk about sports forever, and that's a whole different
No, I
subject.
can't.
So is there any other questions?
I'm out.
We have time for one more question or closing thoughts, ladies.
Well, yes, I know, Mike. You and I are going to have our fair share of baseball conversations.
Well,
but
I'm just saying I'm from
I'm out.
Texas, so, Astros and Rangers. Just, okay. Thank you all so much for your time.
Go sports.
Appreciate it, ladies.
Thank you, ladies. Big round of applause.